Oh my gosh. Can you see me?
Hmm. Same as before.
I can't see you or anything. So you know what? We'll just go with it. And I'm praying that they'll be able to see. Oh, you know what? I'm going to go on my link. I'll go on my LinkedIn and look. Because I can look on my phone. Let's see here. Let's see. I'll tell you. Okay. Okay. I can see you. Yeah, we're both there. You see me? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I can't see you or anything. So you know what? We'll just go. Yeah, so we're here. So okay, that's good. All right. So we'll just stay here and like I said, you gotta work with technology, right? You just have to be fluid and you have to be
Ah.
with it. It's just so funny because like I said, I'm looking at two green boxes. So we'll wait until noon and then we will kind of officially get started. It's a challenge sometimes because people often aren't with events, they might not know to go to the event. And so they sometimes struggle with that as far as how they get there. And so I always like to give a few minutes to do it. But I tell you, technology, I just love it. I always tell people I'm really, really, really social. I'm not so techy. And like I said, I love StreamYard. I love StreamYard. I've never had this happen before, ever. I've never had it happen. And
Well,
so
technology is great when it works, isn't it?
absolutely. But the good thing is on LinkedIn, we're showing, you're showing, I'm showing, and we're there. And so that's a good thing. The banner's there, the one across the bottom is there, and that's the main thing. So so welcome to LinkedIn Live, everyone.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a fun day. So I'm disappointed, Lisa, that you don't have okra in your ears or something crazy, because I know you do that a lot of times, right?
I could go grab something, I'm sure. I could probably go come up with a vegetable.
How cute, how cute. Okay, so let's see here. So let me do this, and I want to go ahead and kind of get started with that. And basically, welcome to LinkedIn Live. I know that many of you might not have met Lisa before, or if you do know Lisa, you're going to know how much fun we're going to have. But whether you're here live or you're watching the recording, I'm Debbie Saviano, and I'm humbled that you're here. Remember back in the day, Lisa, when people used to do a 2 and 3 page bio, they'd read about someone,
Oh,
and you're
yes.
sitting there and you're so uncomfortable because it's like those people there in that audience, they don't care. They just want you to talk about
Are you
what you.
gonna do that? Are you gonna do that to me?
No, I'm not going to do that to you because now with technology, to our point when we were talking earlier, the world is so different now. We can find anything we want, good and bad, sometimes about people online. So what I tell people to do is I want Lisa to talk to you. I want you to be able to talk to everyone here and not have to worry about, taking time away to go over a long link, a long bio. So it's going to be a fun time. But I encourage everyone, first of all, to find Lisa Murphy on LinkedIn and connect with her there. And also on your whether you're on your phone or whether you're on the computer, whichever, when you're looking at the event, there's a little tab, little banner there that says networking. If you click on that, it'll show you everyone who's registered for the event. And so that way you can go in and connect with them. So Janine is here, our dear friend Janine, who is from
Aw.
Trinidad.
Hi, Janine.
I wonder if she's drinking coconut ice cream. We're going to talk about banana ice cream later. But anyway, thank you, Janine, for being here. So go in and connect with those people who are here because that's what you want. You want people to have a chance to meet more people, et cetera, et cetera. So I always encourage people to make sure that they go through and they take time to connect with people, not just the speaker, you, Lisa, but also other people that are here, right? And just say, hey, I was on the interview with Debbie and Lisa, and naturally I'd like to connect with you. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to connect. And so it's a great way to expand your network and et cetera, et cetera. So I encourage you to give comments, to say you're here, and to let us know what questions you might have for Lisa. And Lisa is fun. She's quirky. And I got to tell you a story. So Lisa, this is the world that we live in today. So Lisa Murphy met, correct me if I'm wrong, you met Margot on a plane, correct? Our dear friend Margot Tantow, correct?
That's true, indeed.
In air, right? So you met. So it goes to show you how you meet someone in physical space. Now that we have digital space, you can continue those conversations, those relationships. So Margot and Lisa met. And then I met Lisa through Margot. And so it's just a funny new world we live in. And the abilities we have to connect with people are huge from what we used to have. So I'm thrilled that Lisa's here with us. And Lisa and I've had several conversations about food because Lisa's a very, very healthy person. And anyone who knows me knows I'm not. I eat junk and I don't eat like I should. I sure as heck don't exercise. And so Lisa's going to try to help me and everyone else who is here. So it's going to be fun to kind of hear all the things that you have to share with us. So the first thing I have to start with, Lisa, who is Lisa? So we see you online with okra in your ears and goofy, funny things. You meditate, you're a yoga teacher, you're a math geek, you're a sales executive, you're a health coach. Where have you come from and where are you now? And how, what's that journey? Who's Lisa? Who's Lisa?
Oh my gosh. Oh
Tell
my
us
gosh. Well, Lisa is all of those people indeed. And I really believe that now at the age of almost 56, I am really finding out who is Lisa, the answer to that question. I'm from a small town in Iowa. My parents both grew up on farms. Everybody around me was a farmer or a teacher. And we had a joke, the farmers in the front, the cooks in the back. So if you were getting into a car, the farmers got in the front seat and the cooks got in the back seat, right? It was very, very traditional roles in the small community where I grew up. And I went to college and I lived overseas and I saw the world and I had all these amazing experiences. I really believe we are just such a beautiful product of everything that we've experienced. And then once we get to a certain age, it's really up to us to decide which pieces we want to pull out. And so that is why now you will see me pulling okra out of my ears because I've decided it's a whole lot more fun to have a whole lot more fun. And that's kind of where I am now.
About that, Lisa, you basically, which I would say myself too with education, you return to your roots, no pun intended. Came from farming, came from rural community, and you're now taking that knowledge. So Beth Buffington's here and Mandy Blackbird's here. Hi, ladies.
Hi, ladies.
Two dear people. So we're excited to have Janine and Beth and Mandy here with all our artist friends. So I want to give shout outs to that. So be sure and give Lisa some love and comments and questions that you might have. So you went kind of back to your roots with the farming. So was it a first generation farm or was farming in your family?
No, farming was in my family on both sides. My father's family came from Ireland. My mother's family came from Wales, and they were both farmers in those respective islands, which is kind of fun. Yeah, and recently I got to go back and see both the West Coast, and I got to see where my Murphy generation family farmed and where the Owens it's just amazing. But yeah, and so here I am after this whole crazy world, like you said, back to my roots, okra, vegetables.
Do you know that there is research, and don't quote me anyone who's here, but I've read research before and I love to read research. There's a research that shows that the percent of people in the United States, I'm talking about, this could be global too, but in the United States, that live within 5 miles of where their primary home was as a child. And it's funny because that's the case with us, with our kids. It's interesting. So to go home, even if you're not there physically, you're still there mentally because farming had such an impact it had to have on your life, right?
Absolutely. Farming and just being out of doors and being really appreciative of what the earth gives us. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things about being healthy is if we kind of ate like our grandparents and our ancestors ate and moved and acted like our ancestors moved and acted. And I'm not talking about like, the paleo diet, that's a whole nother topic, which maybe you'll ask me about. But, if we think about, they ate real food, they were active. My ancestors were workers, farmers, they used their hands, they moved naturally. So I think there's a lot to be said about that.
There was, we have farmers in our family on my daddy's side in Texas, wheat farmers primarily in maize. And it was interesting because they used to make fun of people who went to the gym. It's like, if you want to go to the gym, get out there in the fields and do some work. You don't have to go to the gym then. So it's interesting, but that's all based on our lifestyle, right? Well, how did you get from an actuarial analyst, which I think is just all math, right? It's all numbers, to a healthy aging coach? Talk us kind of through that. And you mentioned earlier when we were talking couple of weeks ago, you've been in Dubai. So talk about,
Yeah.
what is all that? Because how'd you get from there to here?
I know it's crazy, isn't it? Well, again, Iowa, I grew up in Iowa, and in the mid 80s, if anybody else remembers the mid 80s, like we do, there was this, and I loved math. When I was growing up, math was always my favorite subject. I remember numbers. Like I used to remember phone numbers, although does anybody remember phone numbers anymore? I don't think so. But so in the mid 80s, this big report came out about the best professions with the least stress, best money, least stress. And it was actuarial science. So I was like, okay, actuarial science, math and statistics. This sounds great. My father was in the insurance industry. I mentioned my mother came from a family of teachers. So I went off to the University of Iowa, a great actuarial science program, and that's what I got my degree in. Well, it was so not for me. I fell asleep on my computer one too many times, and I left that job to go into the sales department for the same company. So then enter travel into my world. I love travel, still do today.
And
So I
that's
got to
where you met
travel.
Margot. Margot just joined us just a few minutes ago. I didn't want to interrupt you. And so think about that. That travel is how the two of y'all met on the
It
plane. So
is
sorry, go ahead. So
on
how'd you
an
get to the
airplane.
job?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, I learned that I love travel. I learned that I love people. I learned that I could have a whole lot of fun and still do a really good job, but it just could look differently. And then fast forward, I got married to my now ex-husband, and we were like, let's be expats. That sounds like a whole lot of fun. Why not? I envisioned like Hong Kong, like big ceiling fans, the Oriental Hotel in Bangkok or whatever. So we did. That's what we did. We
Good for
went off
you.
and we lived in Dubai. And I lived in Dubai in the Middle East off and on for 10 years. And I know that's when I met Margot. I was coming or going someplace from Dubai to New York or Kansas City or something. And we met on a Delta plane. But, and then as a lot of things do, that kind of wrapped up, got divorced, came home. And I was like, you know what? I'm not interested in going back to the corporate world. I was having too much fun on my own. And I really decided that I wanted to continue to have a whole lot of fun. I When I was in the Middle East, I got to do a lot of fantastic travel, studied a lot of Eastern philosophy, got really into my yoga and meditation, and I've always loved healthy eating because of my background. So I thought, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make something from the things that I love. I'm going to do it my way, to borrow a phrase of
Well,
yours.
Lisa, did you embrace the aspect of meditation, everything from the cultures and stuff? Did you do that with the food too? Did some of those foods from the Middle East and the Orient, different places that you're at?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Some of the best food from Lebanese cultures. I spent a lot of time in Turkey when I was living in Dubai. I did some resident teachers. I was a yoga teacher in residence at a studio in Istanbul for
Oh
some
wow.
periods of time. Oh my gosh, the Turkish food. And you may be really surprised to hear this, but the parallels between my upbringings in Iowa on the farm to these countries, the food is traditionally still very local in a lot of these
Oh,
regions.
absolutely. Only in the
And
United States is it not?
absolutely.
This
And
is my experience.
full of vegetables. Oh my gosh, when I was living in Istanbul, I was making my own yogurt and having, a big, beautiful, juicy peach for breakfast every morning with my homemade yogurt and buying okra. And yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. That's a good point because we've been to Italy several times. Phil's Italian, and
Mm.
over there, when we took a cooking class once with a woman named Elaine Trigani, she's incredible. She's American but lives in Italy. And when we did the class, it was a whole day. We went to the butcher shop. Not only do you pick out your meat, they have a picture of the cow and the farmer and the story of that farm. So you're right. In other countries, it's much more local. We're the ones who've gotten
Yeah.
away from that. And that's probably why we're the most obese civilization on earth right now. Amazing.
We have
Go
we
ahead.
have lost the connection between we've lost the connection of where our food comes from. And
Yes.
growing up on a farm, I remember going to my uncle's, he was a dairy farmer. Now, I was the only cousin that was not raised on the farm out of both sides of the family. So I was kind of the city girl, even though it was a town of less than 10,000 people in Iowa,
Right.
right? But I remember going to my uncle's farm. He was a dairy farmer. He was using machines to milk his cows at that point, and he unhooked the machines. He grabbed the cow by the teat and he pointed it at me and he said, "Open your mouth." And I was like, "Oh, no, 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 no." But right, knowing where our food comes from really can inform our decisions.
Absolutely. Debbie Womack says that Mediterranean food as a whole is unbelievable, so healthy and good for you. And
Mm,
that's true. I think about that when we were in Taiwan for a while, and everything is fish because, they're surrounded by water. So
mm.
I hadn't thought about that, Lisa, till you said it. That's so cool. So there's a gazillion, and I mean a gazillion health coaches out there. And what do you do specifically that makes you different from the others? Because I think I know a little bit of that because, I've had conversations along with Margot and different things. But what makes you different? Talk about that a little bit. Because I think we
Well,
struggle with that. Those of us who are not healthy, which I'm not, I'll say it up front, we struggle with that.
I'm gonna call you on that because I think you're very healthy. You may engage in some unhealthy habits, as we all do, but I would look at you and your vibrancy and your active. You're amazing. You're relevant. You're active. You're vibrant. So anyway, we'll talk more about you
You're
later,
sweet.
maybe.
You're sweet.
But I think, I think there are two things that make me different. In one, I'm not 40 or 30 or 25. I am a 50, almost 56-year-old woman, and I'm not a man. So that I think is different in that I can relate to middle-aged women and their issues, right? I think that's really, really, really important.
And another thing I'm going to add and talk about this a little bit because, and anyone who's on the call on the live today, please give your questions if you have them for Elisa. You also have taken the research, which like I do that with social media and the different things that I'm involved with. Everyone on this call and this LinkedIn live today, they have their research they do for what they do, but you also do it with food and everything. Talk about that a little bit because there's so much information out there, Lisa. It's amazing.
Yeah, none of us needs more information. There is a plethora of information. I believe what we need is curated information from someone that you trust. And and that's my goal. I do the work because that's what I'm passionate about. Like
Mhm.
I love listening to doctors talk about the best diet for healthy aging. I love listening to people talk about how we need sleep, how that's very, very important. I have doctors and experts that I follow that I trust, whom I trust, and then I do the same for my clients. I distill all of that information down for them.
So what kind of person engages your services, and kind of talk a little bit about how you help those clients? Because I know we have people of all ages on here. I know I'm not going to talk age, but I just know we have different generations on here because I know most of the people on the LinkedIn live today. So talk about how you work with people and how they, why they engage and what you do with them.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a healthy aging coach. So, theoretically, you are never too young to learn how to age healthily. In fact, I would argue that the longer you wait, the harder it might be because we all get pretty set in our ways, especially as we get older. However, the majority of my clients are middle aged and older. My youngest client is in her early 40s right now, and my oldest client just turned 85. And I think that is absolutely amazing
Yeah, that
that
is.
someone is 85 years old and they are committed to continuing to improve their health and their well-being.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's impressive. That's impressive. It's
Mhm.
interesting because I think it's Elon Musk's mother. She is just beautiful and just so, talk about energy and vibrancy. I think she's in her 80s and she
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
stunning woman. I'm sure she, follows a lot of things you talk about. So the one question I always have when we're talking about, because there's a joke about me and many have heard me say it. If you see me running, call the police because I don't jog. So I always have to ask, do people lose weight on your program? Is when they're eating healthy, like you work with them on and the different things, do they lose weight on that or is it a different type of healthiness?
Some people do lose weight. I am not specifically a weight loss coach. There are other people who specialize if you need to lose, however much weight. I am a healthy aging coach. Now, if you think about improving your habits, if you improve the way you're eating, if you improve your activity levels, if you improve your stress levels, which people don't realize is directly related to your health and your weight, if you improve how you're sleeping, you often will lose weight if you need to. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good. Mandy on here, and I don't think Mandy minds me reading it because it's in the comment section. She's in your RAV program, and within this is pretty impressive. The first 5 minutes of the first session, you gave her a huge light bulb. She says it was amazing, the perspective that you gave her, and something she's been battling with her whole life. And that's true for many of us,
Mm,
I think, because
mm.
I know for me personally, it goes back to childhood. Of course, everything goes back to childhood, right? That's huge. Thanks for sharing that, Mandy.
Oh, thanks, Mandy. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
Um, we hear, oh my gosh, how do you even keep up with all the different fads and diets? And I just really think if you just go back to the basics of what nature intended us to do, we'd probably be a lot better off. But you hear vegan, you hear low carb, you hear keto, you hear paleo, all those different diets. What are your thoughts on that when you hear the people talk about those?
It makes my head spin. And I understand why people are so confused because, first of all, again, let's come back to sources that we trust. Mostly what we're being fed, pun intended, is a bunch of Madison Avenue marketing designed to sell books and diet programs. And I'm not interested in that whatsoever. I think it was Michael Pollan who said, eat real food, not too much, mostly plants, right? So if we get back to the way our parents, our grandparents, maybe not our parents, depending on which generation you are, our grandparents, our great grandparents ate, we ate real food and we were very, very active. And I think it's different for everyone. I will say you do not have to be a vegetarian. You do not have to be a vegan. And the difference is a vegetarian eats milk and dairy products as well as eggs. A vegan does not eat any product that comes from an animal. You don't have to be either one of those, but you do have to eat plants because plants are our only source of fiber. And 90% of Americans do not get enough fiber. Yet, we're obsessed with protein in this country. We get enough protein.
That's fascinating. That might be one of those light bulbs that Mandy was talking about. Let me ask you a question about that, kind of off track a little bit, but that's really fascinating. I'm a Texas girl, right? We love meat.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in the country and we got cows across the street, the road over here. I love a good steak, but I'm beginning, Margaret, I've had this conversation. I'm beginning to feel guilty because to your point about the knowledge that we have today versus last year, 10 years ago, I didn't know, this is embarrassing to say, but I never thought about cows as having feelings or, all those things. Well, now when they separate the mama cows from the babies over here, they cry for 3 days. You hear them. It's horrific. So now I'm like, I feel guilty eating the meat. I mean, I'm not going to stop eating meat. I'm going to say that it's never going to happen, but probably. But I do think that there's truth to that. So I think that, but I never thought about, we don't get enough plants. Never thought about that.
We do not get enough plants. And to your point about knowing where our food comes from, we're just looking for more information so that we can better inform our own personal decisions. And I never tell anybody how specifically to eat. However, having that information is really, really important, right? And, pigs are smarter than your dog. If you have a dog, a pig is smarter than your dog.
Right.
Now, there are a lot of reasons why people may or may not choose to eat meat. And I'm not 100% plant-based myself. But I tell you what, I think about it. And if I'm about to sit down to a salmon fillet, I am putting my hands together in gratitude for that fish that gave its life for me. And I think the more awareness we have around everything that we do, the better equipped we are to perhaps make the right decision for ourselves.
Well, our son-in-law, Bill Hill, he's native, and I have some of me too, but not as much as Bill does. But many cultures, not just Native Americans, but many cultures, to your point, give tribute and say thanks to the food that's been provided for them, because we do forget about that. That someone gave up, something gave up life so that we could have a hamburger. I didn't mean it to go down that trail, y'all, but I had to ask. Thank you what do you think is the biggest deterrent for people feeling the best or having a healthy diet or feeling, being in good health?
It might surprise some of our viewers. I kind of actually hope it does. My 4 pillars of wellness are food first, mood second, rest third, and movement fourth. And they are in this order by design. And you mentioned hamburger. So if you think about a hamburger, whether it's plant-based or a good old Texas beef, right?
Right.
There's a juicy burger in the middle, and then there's the buns on either end. Food and movement are the buns. And it's what everybody wants to focus on. What should I eat? And How many steps do I need to get? That 10,000 step thing, that's a whole myth we can maybe talk about too. That's a teaser. What is important is what's in the middle. So I believe that mood, what's going on between your ears, what are your stress levels, what are you thinking, what is your self-talk, and rest. Are you sleeping? Are you taking downtime? I think those are the two biggest underestimated needle movers for most people in their health and wellness journey.
I love the analogy of the hamburger. Debbie Womack made the comment that plants are living because they grow, take in nutrients, and reproduce. Debbie Womack is one of those people that always challenges me because she's always off on some deep thought process. I say that with complete love, Debbie, because you're one of those people like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. So thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
Do you have this? I mentioned before, it's not my DNA to work out. It's just not. I'm sorry. I wish it was. I'll be 70 in November, and I could count on this hand how many times I've ever done something. I don't even know if I have that many. But anyway, so do you have to work out to age healthily?
No.
Just the movement. You talk about the 10,000 steps. Talk about that a little bit. The movement.
Okay, you do not have to work out to age healthily, but you have to move your body. The adage, move it or lose it, is completely, completely true. And it goes for your brain too. We have to be active. We have to move. Again, our parents, our grandparents, great grandparents did not go to the gym. They would laugh at us if we talked about that. They were active in their daily life. Now, one great way, in fact, sometimes if I have a client who's really struggling to work out, right, we'll go, okay, look, let's just count your steps. Do you have a Fitbit? Do you have a smartwatch? Do you have a smartphone? And then they all think I'm going to make them get 10,000 steps. Well, if you're only getting 20 steps a day and I tell you to get 10,000, you're going to go, forget you. You'll get burned out in a heartbeat. Plus, the really, really cool thing is 10,000 is completely random. There is no science that says that 10,000 steps means anything. It was a Japanese marketing, again, Madison Avenue, whatever the Japanese equivalent is. A Japanese firm designed a new Fitbit, and they needed a clever name for it. So they took the Japanese word for 10,000, and that is what they named their Fitbit. So this is where we got this whole idea around 10,000 steps. Now, there is science around 4,000 steps. So if you are on a health journey and you want to be active and you want to stay healthy, I think it's a really fun thing to do, to notice how many steps you're getting, and then just to work to increase it. If you're getting 20, work to get 100. If you're getting 1,000, work to get 2,000. Work up to 4,000. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because if I'm in my office, if I'm at home in the office working, I'll sometimes set timers, because if I don't set a timer to get up, I can sit here all day. Literally, I can sit here all day because I love what I'm doing. And so I'll set the timer, sometimes 15 minutes, sometimes an hour, whatever, but just to get up. And this is crazy, but sometimes doing the laundry helps because I'll hear the buzzer go off. Get up, go do it. But I have to tell myself because I get so ingrained in what I'm doing. So that's a great, that's good. What about genes? What about genes? Yeah, genes. Can we do anything in regard to preventing the cancer, the diabetes, the heart disease? If our parents had them, what's the role with genes and DNA, et cetera, et cetera?
Thank you so much for asking, Debbie. This is a very, very, very important question. Only about 20 to 25% of our health is determined by our genetic makeup. 20 to 25%. That means that 75 to 80% is up to you, right? So here's where this comes from. Again, let's talk about Madison Avenue, and let's talk about the healthcare industry that is driven by the drug industry. Now, don't get me wrong. I am all for Western medicine when appropriate. I'm all for, if we need to be on medication, we're on medication. But isn't it so much easier to be told to take a pill than to change your lifestyle?
As I said, and I said, full transparency, I don't have my year on my LinkedIn, but I'll be 70 in November. I don't take any medications. I cannot tell you, anytime, like I had eye surgery a couple of years ago, the number of times where they almost want to argue with you because you don't take a prescription. And I'm like, why would I take a prescription? Well, what about this? What about this? And just kind of keep going. But they push it. I mean, pushing pills is like, we could go on a whole different avenue down that lane for prescriptions. But the only reason, and I used to teach this when we do special units with kids in school, the reason we eat eggs and bacon for breakfast is because of Madison Avenue. It has nothing to do with anything else. Nothing. They came up with a marketing campaign. They want to sell more eggs, and that's why we do eggs for breakfast. So it's all that psychological, because we hear people say, well, I'm having pizza for breakfast. Why are you having pizza? It doesn't matter. But Madison Avenue made us think we should have bacon and eggs. So,
exactly. And see, there's another reason. You are 100, you are totally healthy. You are going to be 70. You already admitted you don't take any medications.
Yeah, no, never have.
But you are a healthy woman.
They want to argue with you. Now, if I had a reason, if I had some, something, I'd take it, but not just because, well, maybe this would help preventative stuff. It's not like I had something. They just were trying to. My daddy's 91. He doesn't take any medication. But again, every time he goes to the doctor, they try to get him on something. It's a business.
It is a business. And here's another important thing you said. So your dad is 91. You could say, okay, great. I just got my genes from my dad. Yes, you did. You got a fifth, a fourth to a fifth of the genes from that determine your health. But I'm betting you inherited a lot more than your genes from your father.
Definitely. He's a huge impact in my life. You want to know my daddy's weight plan is? He has a 32 waist, and he's had the same belt for a gazillion years. And if it gets too tight, he stops eating for 24 hours. That's his thing. He's never not worn a 32-inch waist belt. He doesn't work out either. Janine was asked us, could you give some insights into vitamin supplements? And then, of course, we're going to agree with Debbie Womack here. She says big pharma, they want to control everything. That is the most. If we haven't seen that in the last 2 years, we haven't seen anything. That's another path we could rabbit hole. But talk to what Janine's asking about the vitamin supplements, because I think that's a really big thing, because there's so much out there about that. I mean, I don't know if you see the commercials on TV about the plants and the fruits, the pills you take every day. I can't think of the name of it. I should, since I see 1,000 commercials. But anyway, talk about vitamin supplements.
Well, I need to preface this by saying I'm not an expert in supplementation. I believe whenever possible that we get what we need from the food that we eat. So with a few exceptions, we should be able to get what we need from the food that we eat. Now, since I follow a mostly plant-based diet, there are 2 vitamins that vegetarians and vegans are often, actually humans in general, are deficient in, and one is vitamin D3, and because of dairy, and then the other is B12. And as I've gotten older, I never took any supplements, no calcium, no nothing. As I've gotten older, I do take multivitamins specifically geared for 50 and over. I was getting a little bit low energy in the afternoons, and I needed the B12. Okay, so there's B12 is not naturally prevalent in any plant-based food source, although there are sometimes fortified foods have B12 fortified. But anyway, if you're not eating a well-rounded diet, yes, for whatever reason, supplementation can be really helpful. But I really believe that we should be able to get what we need from the food that we eat. Calcium is another really big thing. Yeah. We do not need to take, in fact, we know now that pouring calcium into the body does not strengthen the bones. Using the bones is what strengthens the bones. So that's probably why your daddy and you're active. You may not exercise, you may not go to the gym, but let's see if we can't plug any nutritional holes first. And then if we're still deficient in any vitamins, minerals, then we could explore supplementation.
Very good. Thank you for that. Margot's sharing that she was able to get off of 40 milligrams of steroids daily by just changing what food she was eating.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's true of a lot of us, because but you don't know what you don't know. That's an example, going back to that research that you provide to your clients and people listening today.
No, and what I do first and foremost is I empower my clients, and I help everyone that I come across. And if we go back to big pharma and the drug companies, it is so victimizing what they feed us.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't do anything about this, so take this pill. Well, baloney. Look, Margot has a fantastic testimony to speak otherwise, right? Let's empower ourselves. Let's empower ourselves and come from an empowered place rather than the place of a victim, which is a whole genetic argument too. I can't do anything about this. This is
I
my
love
family.
that. I love that because you hear people say that all the time. Not that you shouldn't be aware if your grandfather and your dad had both had heart attacks. You want to be cognizant of that, but there's other ways to take care of that too. And it might be that
Absolutely.
you have to have prescription, but at least it's the knowledge base of it, if you will.
Exactly. Exactly.
What do you think is the most important habits to have? Because I think
Mm.
we all benefit from this. Habits to have in place that allow us to obtain optimal health as we move up the ladder, if you will. I'm going to start moving down the ladder, though. I'm going to start. Joe Packham does this. She deducts a year every year on her birthday. I'm going to start. I'm 69 next year. You'll know why.
You know what? I think you can do whatever you want. I think you can absolutely do whatever you want, Debbie, whatever you want.
Worry about
No, okay, here again is a little bit of controversy. I hope. I think the most important thing that everyone can do to get healthy, stay healthy, remain healthy is to put some boundaries on their device use.
Oh, because we're sedentary because of it. Is that why you think it, or other reasons?
So many reasons. So remember I said I believe it's the hamburger part of the sandwich that's the most important, the mood and the rest. Our cell phones, our devices. I love social media. I use it. I use them all. I am not some, Puritan living off the grid. I use all of these things and I set boundaries for myself on them. Cell phones, devices, they mess with our sleep. They mess with our minds. They mess with our stress. And we are not recognizing the effects that lack of sleep and high stress levels have not only on our weight, not only on our waistline, but on our health and wellness. And so just some simple boundaries around this.
I so agree with that because, like, as much as I'm on social media, and I love social media, anyone who knows me knows that. But I have boundaries. Phil and I are going to go out of town this afternoon, and I'll be pretty much off the grid. I'm not going to do anything. I'll post in the morning because that's what I do, but then that's it. But I think people think that you have to have this thing in your hand all the time, and you have to be doing it. And then I worry about young women and men too, for that matter, young boys and girls, that they have this image in their mind of what their body's supposed to look like.
Mm.
There's no one that looks like that. And if they do,
No.
it's for a very short time because our bodies change, right? But I worry about that impact. Here, mental, physical, and spiritual, all impacted by electronic devices. And that whistleblower from Facebook, I cannot think of her name right now. She said that, and they do it intentionally, not for any other reason but to make money. That's what we don't see. It's not. I said from day one when I first started speaking about social media, they own that and they're a business and they're going to make money and they don't care anything about us. All they care about is how they can make more money. So kudos to you for saying that because I think that is so, so true. And I agree with you 100%, Debbie. I mean, I think that's true that and we have to tell our children, they can't do that. I mean, we have to set the boundaries because kids get a bad rap for tech and for social media. I see just as many adults, if not more, on devices as I see kids.
No, we inherit so much from our parents besides our genes, behaviors.
Yeah.
If you're sitting around the dinner table and you expect your preteen not to have their phone out, well, then yours better darn well be,
Right. And you can't say, well, it's for work. You can't say it's for work because that's a cop out. Because what message does that send, right? I mean, what message does that send? If you just had to do, well, before I was going to ask one thing about the journey, but I'm going to ask before I get that, because Janine asked for the recipe. Yesterday was National Ice Cream Day, and you made a funny comment about plant-based. Well, wasn't a funny comment. It was funny to me because you said plant-based ice cream and banana. I didn't know you could make plant-based ice cream. Talk to us about that.
Okay, well, let me tell you, there are several delicious plant-based ice cream products on the market. Ben and Jerry's makes plant-based ice cream. So if you're not familiar,
what's in it?
It's made from non-dairy milk. So milk, as we grew up thinking about it, is the milk that came from my uncle's cow, right? Dairy milk. Then there's almond milk. Then there's coconut milk. Then there's oat milk. Then there's cashew milk. You can make ice cream out of any of these other non-dairy products. Coconut milk makes a particularly rich and creamy one. It's not necessarily healthy. Now, I need to point this out. Just because something is vegan or vegetarian does not mean that it's healthy. It simply means that it's plant-based. But So I do sometimes treat myself to a pint of purchased pre-made plant-based ice cream, but you can make the most amazing frozen banana ice cream. Sometimes it's
We're
called
talking
nice cream. Yeah.
ice cream. So you need to. So how do we get the recipe for that?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now. And then if
Okay, you
somebody
tell us. It's
wants,
that simple. Okay.
it's so simple. And if somebody really wants a written recipe, they can message me and I'll send it to them. All
Okay.
you got to do, like if anyone makes smoothies, sometimes we keep bananas in the freezer to add them to your smoothies to make your smoothie thick and creamy. Same thing. So when your bananas are ripe, not rotten, but ripe, peel them, put them in the freezer and have some in the freezer ready to go. Then when you want to make your frozen banana nice cream, which no lie, it's the consistency of, remember Dairy Queen soft serve ice cream. I'm
Oh
not kidding.
yes, yes.
You take them out of the freezer. You really need a high-speed blender or a food processor. A regular blender doesn't work so well. You put it in a high-speed blender or a food processor. You let it sit for maybe a minute or two just to soften a little. And then you process the heck out of those frozen bananas. And I'm not kidding you, it turns into this creamy consistency. You can add berries, frozen cherries, you can add chocolate chips, you can add a drop of vanilla. It's absolutely delicious.
Well, y'all, that's the purpose of this whole LinkedIn Live today is just to get that banana recipe. That is, oh, that sounds delicious. And see, again, full transparency here. I love Bluebell banana popsicles. They're probably not very healthy, but gosh, they are good. They are just, I mean, and I only have the one half, but they are melt in your mouth. So I'm going to have Phil because he's my ultimate chef around here. Make the banana the nice cream. That sounds so yummy. That sounds so
It's
yummy.
delicious. It's absolutely delicious. And you know what? I think you should enjoy your popsicle. The thing is, we've just gotten away from enjoying, small portions of things as treats. And and if you're eating a bowl of regular ice cream every night, you're probably getting way too much saturated fat, way too much sugar. And why not just mix it up a little bit and give your taste buds a break too, you know?
Just about because I'm a huge sunflower girl. I love sunflower seeds. I mean, I order
Mm.
well, Phil orders from Amazon for me. That's how much I love them. Talk to us about the ones that you shell. Talk to us about nuts. What impact does nuts have in our diet? Is it how that helps us or whatever?
Nuts and seeds are both very healthy foods to add to your diet. Omega 3s is something that we often get. You may have heard of taking a fish oil supplement. Somebody wrote to me just yesterday and asked me, similar to Janine, about fish oil supplements. It's fine if you think you need that. However, you can get most nutrition from the foods that you're eating, and nuts and seeds are a great source of omega 3s. What's really important with nuts specifically is that they are very caloric and very high in fat. So we want to just be mindful of portion sizes, for example, especially if you're trying to lose weight or you're really concerned about your heart health. Walnuts are particularly heart healthy. So if I had to pick one nut to
Walnut.
recommend, it would be the walnut. Almonds are great, cashews are healthful. Again,
So
limited portions.
cashews are. I would have thought cashews would be fattening, would not be as healthy.
Well, they are high in fat. They're officially a fruit, so they're technically a fruit. They
Cashews are
grow in a
dangerous,
tree. Yeah, they grow in a tree. They
right?
are high in fat. They're also very naturally creamy. So they're really awesome to use if you're trying to replace full fat dairy, for example. You can soak cashews and then make a plant based cashew cream if you're trying to cut back on your dairy consumption. Yeah. So again, all things in moderation.
Right.
Seeds are really, really good for us. Pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds. These are wonderful sources of healthy fats.
Debbie Womack put in the comments, y'all. If you look at Anatomoo, Planet, Oath, Eclipse, Dream Pops, she said they're outstanding choices and trees. See, who knew you're gonna get all these great ideas for eating healthier? I feel like I should just like go on this new. I should send Phil to the store with a new list.
Well, that's something that I often challenge my clients to is like try something new because we
Right.
get so stuck in our ways. And what worked for us 20 years ago, well, I'm here to tell you as we get older, starting with age 30, I think I always get the statistics mixed up, which is funny because I was an actuarial science major. But every single decade, our metabolism slows by a certain percent. And that's one reason why we tend to gain weight as we get older.
I bet most people on this live today can relate to this. I eat 1/4 of what I
Yeah.
used to eat. There's not, I mean, I do, because I'm not that hungry, et cetera, et cetera. But try to get off 5 pounds or might be more than
Mhm.
that, but it is a challenge to say the least. So to your point earlier, when you start earlier with eating healthier, it's going to pay off in the end because we develop these really bad habits, which I can attest to. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it was Henry Ford that said, if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to keep getting what you've always got. So if you keep eating like you ate when you were 35,
That's right.
and your metabolism has slowed so much every single decade, it's not going to work. Plus, we just know better now, right? Like we don't lather ourselves in baby oil and get on a foil blanket anymore either, because we know that's going to give us skin cancer,
Yeah,
right?
that's why I have those little marks on my hands.
Me
Oh,
too.
that's so cool. So what is kind of ending here conclusion? What's one thing that you would recommend for someone, just one thing to do? I mean, you've given us a lot of those, but I think we probably all taken different takeaways. But just one thing if we're going to start fresh today, this afternoon. See, I didn't say tomorrow, I said today, that's growth right there for me. It's always
I
tomorrow.
love it. Power down hour.
Oh,
1 hour before you want to turn the light out, power down all of your devices. That means Instagram, LinkedIn, your phone, the TV, get it out of your bedroom. Sorry, that was two. Power down hour, 1 hour before bed, all devices off, and see what that does for your sleep.
it's interesting because every house we've always had a TV in the bedroom, always. When we moved out here and did this one, we don't have a TV in the bedroom anymore.
Mm.
And it's so much nicer. But part of that is because people have their iPads. Here's what Phil and I do before we, this is so weird, so strange. If you've never watched The Gardener's World, a British show that's been on like 50 years, I'm exaggerating, but not much. All he does is talk about plants, herbs, flowers, trees, everything. That's what we watch. We usually take
Mm.
20 minutes to watch The Gardener's World. And just his voice, welcome to the gardener's world. It's like meditation. So we do have the device. I have. So what do you suggest people do in that hour? I know that sounds crazy, but we very rarely just sit.
Well, there's a lot of things you could do 1 hour before
Give
bed
us
while you're in your bed.
give us some help.
Well, you could get frisky with your partner. If you're in bed with your partner, you could do that. It's really good exercise and good for your heart and lowers your cortisol levels. You could read a book, old school.
Oh, okay. So you're not saying not use your brain in some way. Okay.
Correct. You could
Okay.
read a book. You
Okay.
could take
Listen
a
to music,
bath. You could listen to
meditate.
music. You could
Okay.
meditate. You could do some stretches.
Okay. All right. Okay. That,
Yeah.
I thought you meant like just totally zone. So I misinterpreted. Does anyone have any questions? Y'all have done a great job of giving those as we've gone through. But please, do you have any questions for Lisa? Because she's given us so much. Like I said, to Mandy's point, I've learned so much in a short time. I would encourage you. Margot Tantow's on the live today, and Lisa did a windowsills chat with her. So Margot Tantow, Margot, put in the comments if you would your link to your windowsill chats because she did an interview with Lisa as well, and it's going to have some different kinds of things that than what we had here, and just to kind of complement that. But Lisa's got so much information, and if you've never listened to Margot's windowsill chats, just listen to Margot's voice. Is so
Mm.
peaceful. The Bob Ross channel puts her to sleep, but I've been listening to hypno recording while I sleep lately. That's interesting, Mandy. Thank you for sharing that. That's it. There's so many. Debbie says, take a nice hot bath with candles and a glass of wine. I love a
Mm.
bubble bath. I could take baths all the time. So you're right. There's all kinds of things we could do. Lisa, it has been such a treat to have you on here. I encourage everyone, first of all, to please connect with Lisa on LinkedIn, and anyone else on this call that you might not be connected with, connect with them, please. That's the first thing. Secondly, I'll post this later and tag everybody that was here. So if you want to share it, there might be someone you know, family, friend, whatever, who could benefit from the stuff Lisa shared with us today. I think I learned a lot, and I think everyone on the live learned a lot. So Lisa, what a special treat having you. Thank you so much. It's truly been fun. I appreciate everyone taking the time to be here and let Lisa share her insights. And y'all have a blessed and fabulous Tuesday.
Thank you, Debbie. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Y'all have a great day. I'm waiting. I can always go back and, oh.